How are you Twitter? How are you Facebook? How are you YouTube? Twitch? I see you. Who did I miss? Periscope for a little more moments. Periscope is dying in like a day or two. And I think I said LinkedIn Live. Today is about wine. And I have here with me Kira from Olivia Brion Wines. She is in California. I am in New York, and we are about to get into these fabulous wines and more about her and all that good stuff. Hey, Kira. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. Yes. I can't believe it's been this long since I've talked to you. It's so nice to just see you and hear your voice.
It's good to see you too. So we have to tell people how we met though, because I think the story is pretty awesome. We met on Instagram, right? It was Instagram. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You were coming to New York with the wines, and it was just like, hey, you want to meet up, talk about wine? Then you invited me to a wine class you were going to be demoing at. Right?
Yeah, so that was my you know, who knows at this point, but that was the distributor in New York. So
okay.
He was the head of American Sommeliers, and he was doing these classes on wine, and I was coming to see him, and he said, well, why don't you talk about Napa? And it's so funny, that trip is just so strange, because I really came out, you know, for family reasons, and I didn't really put a lot into work. I reached out to you and one other woman, and that was it. I just was going to, you know, kind of put all of my eggs in a couple baskets and be like, all right, let's just do some deep relationship building. And these women are really interesting to me, and let's get to know each other. And it was so nice of you to want to come with me to this presentation, not knowing at all what it is. We just met at a wine shop and had a quick glass of wine and went off to our Napa wine talk, you know, and then the night, I mean, it was just so, we started doing all these different tastings.
It was an amazing night. I thought I was going to be there. I'm like, oh, I'll go for a couple minutes. What time? The class may have started at like 7. I think I got home at 11:30 or midnight, people.
I know. I didn't even eat dinner. I thought we were going to have dinner there. We were at a steakhouse.
Right.
I thought we were going to have dinner, but nope. We just kept drinking through dinner. We had like rounds and rounds of tastings. And then Aldo comes over with all of his little bags that he starts pouring us and teaching us how to taste blind and challenging us. At that point, it was like
wine. Yeah, like he's like an icon. And I had never even met him, even though I live in New York. So it was such a night. It was a great night.
It was a long time. You were a good sport. Yeah, I think we met up at 6 and I parted ways in a cab by, you know, before midnight. So
I was like, and then I got home and I thought, what that was awesome. It's such a New York night though. That's the kind of stuff that happens here. So tell everybody, how did you get into wine?
So I started, as everyone does, in a totally different field. I was most people, anyways. I don't know the rare 21-year-old that has a passion for wine, but I'm envious. But I started out in finance. I was valuing natural materials. Actually, I was valuing like gold mines and mines with bauxite and aluminum, and I was in this weird industry, and my boss, it was strange. Yeah. You know, oil, gas, natural gas, that kind of thing. So I was doing all these valuations for companies, but my boss was really interested in wine, and he had figured out this cool way to value wine acquisitions. Usually land, when you purchase it, it's not a depreciable asset. Right. It's just something that like you have to buy and then that's it. But if you put something like Napa Valley on top of it, it gives it an intangible asset. That's something you can put on a wine bottle, much like a brand name.
Sure.
So my boss at the time was the first person to differentiate that intangible asset from the land value.
Okay.
And so we started to value some wineries at work. We valued Stag's Leap acquisition. We valued an Edna Valley acquisition. And I started to just enjoy learning about it, you know, and I started to talk to some friends about it in San Francisco, and they led me to like a friend of a friend who was winemaker in Napa, and did I want to go talk to him because he could tell me more, and I did. So I went, and that's David, who is the founder of Olivia Brion, and that was back in 2010.
Wow.
And so I just started to, I just took like a hobbyist kind of attitude towards it. It started to come up on weekends, help clean bins, learn how to fix barrels, learn how to, shape wine a little bit. And then I just thought, oh, I really like this stuff. I want to do more of it. So I went to work for the big guy. I went to work for Constellation, and thought maybe I can do what I did before, but just do it for wine, and that'll be a happy medium. And I worked for Constellation in business analytics for 1.5 years. And I was just like, I'm still just kind of doing the same old, ish. Like, it was just spreadsheets and, it was interesting because it was about wine, but I was at a desk all day. So I went to my bosses at Constellation and just quit. One day I just said, hey, you know what? I want to go be a winemaker. I got an internship with this company called The Prisoner, and I'll see you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about Olivia. So who the heck was Olivia Brion? Like, people are like, who is this lady? Her name is on the bottle. Who is she? Tell us more.
So she's kind of our hero, that she's the lady of many stories. So David originally came up with this label based on the story. So the one that you're showing is one of her iterations, but this is her original label. This is on the Pinot Noir.
Okay.
And she is outrunning a locomotive for a very handsome wager. And this is based on the first woman to ride her bike around the world.
Go ahead, girl.
And her name was Annie Londonderry. And she has a very cool story where at the end of the 1800s, 1895, she finished her ride around the world. She won about $10,000, which at the time was
that's a lot of
your salary for a white dude. Yeah, not too bad. And she went on to kind of PR lore. I mean, she's doing what you're excellent at, really, is like telling her story, sharing her brand, getting attention for what she does. And so, I mean, she was a good cyclist, an accomplished cyclist, but really what she was is like a early influencer, to an extent, because she could really talk about her experience and get newspapers to buy it and whatnot. So I find both elements of her interesting, but that's what Olivia Brion is. So we pull these women that maybe are not in obscurity, but they didn't get their proper obituary in the New York Times kind of thing.
Sure.
And I dedicate a wine to them, and I really think about their story when I'm making that wine. So Olivia Brion kind of tells their story. She's the string for all of these true stories of women, and she's the Hollywood retelling of these stories.
Nice.
So my white blend label, Taquin, which means mischievous and flirtatious in French.
Hey, that would be my nickname. I got to get a shirt that says that.
Taquin. I know. I need to make some, right?
Yeah, you do.
So this is, she's about to be arrested for wearing a bathing suit of her own design, a one-piece bathing suit on the beach. And she's an Olympic swimmer. The original story is Annette Kellerman, who was an Australian Olympic swimmer who was arrested on a beach in Massachusetts for wearing a bathing suit of her own design. She went down history as the genesis for modern women's hydrodynamic now swimwear. We used to have to wear these giant pantaloons, sometimes made out of wool, to the beach because God forbid you show your ankle.
Have you ever? Could you imagine that in the beach?
I was a swimmer growing up, so I could really relate. You wanted to take those seconds off of your time, and that's what she was trying to do. She swam for the royal family, and she had to cut up a men's leotard from like the stage, the theater, to be able to cover her whole body but swim fast. So, yep.
Is it true that you all made a wine off of Julie Neymar? I saw some.
Neymar, yeah. So sometimes David would do these kind of short releases, and so he did it. So so his business partner in our original estate, John Neumeier, his sister is Julie Neymar, and she she lent them one of the images of her from when she was like 19 or 20 on the beach.
Wow.
And they put it on a wine label,
Wow.
you know, and it's not even related to Olivia, but you know, sometimes you just do fun stuff like that with wine.
No,
and so they did
I loved her. I mean, I can only imagine the label, I'm sure was gorgeous because she's still, I mean, stunning. I just saw a video and I thought, that's amazing. I want that wine. So that's cool.
I'll dig it out for you. I think I still have a bottle or two, but yeah, I mean,
Hey.
that was, the label's worth it. I don't know how it's a rosé, so I don't know how well it stood up to time, but yeah, it was just, you know, I love David's original story of the woman who rode her bike around the world. So when David and I started to collaborate, I wanted to tell more of Olivia Brion's stories. So I just kind of have this running list of all these women that I want to bring to light.
Wonderful.
And I just, you know, I get for the women on the label, along with the stories, I'm always pulling, you know, like this Taquine label, I pulled a picture of Misty Copeland doing a high jump in order to create the form of the woman on this bottle, because she does that. She has such a beautiful shape. So I mean, you know, so I'm always just like seeing things, reading things. So next year I'll have a Grenache blend out that's dedicated to the story of Ada de Acosta, who is a Cuban-American woman who was the first woman to fly a motorized aircraft in Paris.
Okay.
And they all kind of string or tie loosely back to kind of United States and Paris, because our Olivia Brion is from Paris and we have this story related to her. And so I tried to make it as convincing as possible that they could have been friends or know each other or something like that. So they're contemporaries of that time period.
So then, since you are using these other women as inspiration, are the wines limited edition, and do you change up, or do you just change the label?
So I do, like, I've done 3 releases of the Taquine. And so when I find a wine that I like that works, I'll keep going with it. I have the one you're drinking right now, the Tempranillo Les Vagabonds, which you are kindly showing the label of. This is based on the first woman to ride her motorcycle transcontinental from Brooklyn to San Francisco. Hey.
Brooklyn's always in the house.
So she rode it out for the World's Fair, 4,800 miles across dirt roads, mainly over mountains and whatnot, and by herself. I mean, I think about these things like I wouldn't do that today. I wouldn't motorcycle across the country, you know, and I have like highways and Motel 6s, and, you know, like
the world got bigger. The world did get bigger. So it's a whole other level, considering when they did these things. So tell us, so thank you for sending me a 3-pack of wine. I'm very excited because I'm loving this Tempranillo. Tell us a little bit more about the juice. What's going on?
Right. So the Tempranillo, so the fruit is from this really awesome vineyard called Shake Ridge Ranch. It's starting to get hopefully the notoriety it deserves. It's this vineyard up in Amador County that's about 1,500 feet of elevation. And the cool part about it is it's just really these undulating hillsides with all these different microclimates and different soil types. This comes from volcanic soil as well as quartz granitic soil. So I can get like a couple different, you know, from the same site, really different wines from the same even clone of Tempranillo. Or any varietal. So I also source now some Rhones from that site, along with the Viognier and the Taquine. And I think it's just, I mean, the way that Anne Kramer is the viticulturist, and she had a lot of, you know, following in Napa. She was the viticulturist for Chandon, along with several other estates in Napa. And then she went up and planted this 42 acres about 15 years ago now with her family. And she just farms it. I read an article the other day that quoted another winemaker that sources from her, and he said that she farms it like the mix between an artist and a monk. And I think that's true.
I love that.
Like the diligence of a monk, like writing an illuminated manuscript every day, and then the vision of an artist, and that's her.
This is wonderful. I am going to pair this. I'm going to make pizza when I'm done with this. I'm going to have some pepperoni pizza. I mean, when I say make, I'm throwing some pepperoni and cheese on a already made crust. Okay,
That's
y'all?
making it. That's making it. You didn't order
Right,
it.
that is true. I and a Martha coming out. What would you pair this wine with when you drink it?
Well, I love this wine with anything fatty. So my favorite pairing is, those Torres black truffle chips. I don't know. I buy a lot of potato chips.
Wait a minute. First of all, what are they called? Because I love black truffle, and I don't know if I know about these chips, and it sounds like I need to know about these chips. Torres black.
It's Torres. It's a Spanish company, and I'm sure they're there because they're here. But they're these black truffle chips that are like a really delicate crisp with just like a lot of flavor. It's like a very adult potato chip, but they're so perfect. I wanted to try other ones, so I bought their herbed Mediterranean ones, and I bought their ham ones. They have a Iberico ham potato chip.
Okay. Well, I'm ordering this off after I get off of this.
Yeah, I love anything. I mean, like a good steak. Dinner is steak. Anything with fat in it. This has enough tannin to stand up to that fat, and together they kind of lengthen everything out. Yeah. And I think that's the whole point of a good pairing is just having it better be than the sum of the better than by themselves. So this is
great. It's also just you can totally sip and watch something. Crimes, killers, and red wine. You know how I feel about these things.
It would be a wonderful visual interpretation of the pairing.
This for a pairing on my podcast, which I think I'm going to end up using all your wines on my podcast. So tell us about the rosé, because it is rosé season. I think it's rosé season though. I drink rosé year round.
Rosé is wonderful year round, especially at Thanksgiving. Gosh, it is the perfect accompaniment
with the turkey and the dressing. And if you are a vegetarian, just the sides, delish. But everybody's thinking about rosé because it's spring and summer. We got Easter, Passover. Shout out to my Jews. I know we're not all kosher. This is not kosher, but it's still good.
This is not kosher, but I make all the wines vegan and organically farmed. Boom. And low intervention. It's not, I don't like the word natural wine. That's a whole other conversation. It's just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's just, these are all just grapes. They're just made from grapes. So
because rosé is on everybody's mind. Go for it.
Okay, so the rosé is direct to press. So it's a very French style. I keep figuring out where the camera is.
I love
this is the label. Again, we returned to Olivia on her bike.
And look at the little dog. The little dog. I love
So this is the little dog on the label is part of the story. That's Olivia's dog, but that's actually where the name came from originally. I say that David, the founder of Olivia Briand, named his brand after his two great loves that he was living with. And at the time, that was his dog, Olivia, and his wife, whose original name, or her name, she didn't change it, is Brown. But her family's name before they immigrated here from France was named Briand. And they went through like an Ellis Island of Philadelphia, and they were like, "Oh, Briand, that's too hard. You're Brown now." So now she's Linda Brown. But this was harkening back. So the dog is actually Olivia. But anyway, so the wine is direct to press rosé, and I went to Provence with my husband back in 2016. And just totally fell in love with the dark grapes producing these, ultra pale pink wines. And I thought, you know what, California, we have this weather, we have this soil, I can do this, and I can bring myself back to this moment before we started having kids and doing the whole thing. And so that's what I love about this wine. It brings me back to that moment, and I make it with that in mind. I bring the grapes off the vine very cold. I keep them as cold as possible. I grow the grapes on vines that are for rosé, really, because it's a flat surface right along the Russian River. Gets a lot of wind like they do in Provence, but hot sun like they do in Provence. And the grapes just get a little bit plumper than you would typically have a normal concentrated Syrah up in the mountains. And then I bring it in and I just put it in the press and wait for a hot pink color to start to come out. Nice. So once I see this really beautiful hot pink color start to come out of the press, I start the press and I gently squeeze those guys down. So it depends on the timing of that is maybe an hour. Sometimes, like last year, they just came in a little warmer, so they were just ready to start releasing color. So it was about 10 minutes. Okay. So Syrah bleeds color really fast, and so I put it in the tank, stainless tank for 2 weeks, very cool fermentation, and then I age it for 6 months in a mix of stainless and French barrels.
So people that like rosé from Provence will probably really dig this.
Yes, it's a dry wine. It's like a Provençal wine with the California sun.
Yeah. I mean, as good as this red, I'm sure. I remember loving your wines though that night that I tried them. So far everything's pretty awesome. And tell us about the white wine that as well that you have.
So the white wine is a blend. This is my vision of a perfect white wine. So this is David and I kind of started this. We had 1 barrel of a reserve level Chardonnay left over that he was considering bottling on its own, but then said, Kira, what would you do with it? Mm-hmm. And I, coming back from France, that was in 2016. I was just like, I'm just so in love with Rhone varietals and white Rhone blends. Can I blend this into something that I have in my head, that's just like the perfect white wine to drink on your porch with your friends? And he's like, sure, why don't you just start to get samples? And so I just started to find grapes that I thought would work for it and really found that I did not like a lot of Rhone varietals grown for white wines in California. Like I don't think Roussanne Marsanne grows particularly well here, at least in my experience. And some were very hard to find, like Picpoul, that I like a lot. And so what I found that worked with it was Viognier, and at the first one, Chenin Blanc. And then the next release I did was Vermintino with Viognier, a little bit of Chardonnay, and some orange muscat, which we said is like a dab of perfume on the neck. Okay. And then this one I found, and I farmed and made all of the wine myself because I had this idea of what I wanted rather than getting some friends to give me a good deal on their wine. I farmed 45-year-old Gewürztraminer vines, then this lovely, lovely Viognier plot up at Shake Ridge, and they married really nicely into this wine with just a little bit of that Chardonnay still. So the whole idea on this wine is just for it to be very aromatic, have a peak of acidity that then follows with a long finish and roundness. The Viognier gives it a little bit of that unctuousness that you're looking for, but not like over the top. The way that I fermented is, again, very cold to keep those, those kind of minerally crisp flavors that, have some citrus and floral elements. And I get, just different honeysuckle flavors off the wine as well. But the idea is it's just your perfect, seafood pairing wine. So if you're having a ceviche or scallops, or for vegetarians, a beet ceviche, or, anything with avocado, just something that's just summery and light, this wine is the perfect pairing for it.
So what about, like we say Easter, because it sounds like I still want to have this at my Easter Passover table. What are you pairing with it during that time? It sounds like a great Easter brunch wine.
Oh yeah. No, I think I'll probably break it out for my Easter brunch too. I'm probably going to have ham for my Easter brunch because I have my in-laws in town, so we're going to be kind of traditional. And I think it's going to do really well with ham.
Oh yeah.
It'll have a nice,
a glaze. Tell what kind of ham we talking about here. Some of us love ham.
Okay, I think we're gonna do like a glaze, maybe like an apricot glaze or something.
Okay. I'm coming for Easter. I'll be right there. What I didn't ask you, what would you pair with your rosé?
Well, the rosé, I love like a creamy brie cheese with like a fresh corn baguette. The wine, I put the label the way it is because I wanted it to look like it was like just sticking out of your picnic basket.
Okay.
So my vision of it is like a picnic blanket. You're bicycling over to this big oak tree, and you're just like tearing into your cheese and bread with your hands, drinking your wine.
Sounds absolutely.
That's this pairing. When I do tastings, I do like in a pinch pairing. So, I have reasonable expectations for people to have things around the house. So for the rosé, I say, pretty much, any cheese is going to work. And, and like you could pair it with toast. It doesn't have to be a baguette. But that, that nice kind of yeastiness is a good pairing with it. The tahine, I say, toasted almonds. I love like a nice toasted almonds with some salt on it. It just kind of brings out that sweetness in it too.
Okay.
And then the Pinot that I have behind me that I hadn't had in bottle yet. So I just bottled it.
Oh, okay. A Pinot.
I should see the wine, so I'll have to follow up. But my Russian River Pinot, I always say like a milk chocolate brings out berry flavors in a Pinot. And then the potato chips are for the in a pinch. I mean, I've brought Lay's with me to meetings with Soms that I think are cool. And I'll just like tuck a bag of Lay's in my purse and say, I know we all know that tannins work well with fat, but do you want to just try it?
I mean, potato chips and wine is the best night ever. Just saying.
They are.
So what's next for you all? What is your, like, will you ever do a sparkling? Will you, will there ever be a sparkling?
I'll never say never. I don't know. I mean, I think a sparkling is a great hedge for climate change. And, just all the fires, right? You pick the grapes before
right.
Start. So, maybe someday, but that's the idea with all these wines too, is having the future in mind. So the Tempranillo requires less water. It grows in more area as well in California. The tahine, I can kind of change varietals as needed. So it makes me nimble as a winemaker, although I really like how this year's is expressing. So I'm going to keep that going forward. But
really good. It's wonderful. It's absolutely.
Yeah. And then I'm making Pinots from several different sites. I just contracted a Pinot from Santa Cruz Mountains. And when I was talking to them, in certain areas of California, things have gotten warmer, but there it's actually been cooler the last 4 years.
Interesting.
So, I think that's the whole idea with my winemaking in general going forward, is just evolving with the times and the climate and trying to figure out how do we make wine sustainably? How do we do it without harming the earth and the air and the water and all of that? And then, how do we find the best plots as it warms up or cools down, depending on the microclimate shifts? Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So do you all have a wine club? Yes or no? I know you have packs, but do you have a wine club? Are you getting there?
Yeah, we're getting there. I mean, typically, so in years past, David just did 2 wines. He did a Chardonnay and a Pinot Noir. So he had regular buyers, but, there was like, what were you going to do? 1 release a year, maybe, which some people do, right?
Right.
So I've just been slowly building up the SKUs and finding the places I want to source fruit from. And then eventually I think we'll get there. Okay. We'll get to a wine club model. But for now, I tend to do a release with a discount, just kind of assuming that the people that are on our newsletter are part of our family and friends. And I release the wines at like a wine club rate. So, it's nice because you don't have to sign up and give me your credit card forever. It's up to you what you want to buy when. But I do offer a special with the release.
Right.
So.
Well, I love this Tempranillo. I can't wait to try and pair some of the other ones because I've been feeling rosé-ish myself. So that'll probably get open real soon. It's been so great talking to you. Like,
it's so nice to talk to you.
To hang out again soon. I'll have to come to Cali, or when you come out again.
Can we try to give the Tempranillo a backstory, like you were talking about on your podcast?
A backstory? What do you mean a backstory?
can we personify it? What crime would this wine commit?
Yes. Yes. So, but this is a sophisticated crime, I'd say.
Okay. So it's like white collar crime, or is it like jewel thief or
a jewel thief? But she did stab a guy. So it's like a very sophisticated dancer who you would never think would kill someone, but she stabs her husband because the husband gave a very big jewel to the mistress, but she went back and got that jewel, stabbed her husband. Boom.
Oh my God. I can totally picture the like shiv coming out of her like thigh, whole
Oh yeah, all sexy. She's got a scarf and a hat. Yes, the hat to pull down, but she walks with grace and she's just very, very sexy. So that's what this Tempranillo.
The tango, the Spanish side of this is like the tango.
Yes,
it comes in.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's the best. I'm never gonna get a better tasting. Yes. I'm putting it on the website.
I love that. I'm just gonna have to give all the wines I drink when I review them. I'm gonna have to like make up killer versions of them. Thank you for this new review idea. And then if I don't do it for winemakers will be like, but you didn't give me a killer. I'll give everybody a killer.
Give sure. I mean, we're gonna have to go through each one of these.
Oh my God.
They're appropriate. I mean, like the rosé, that's like a beach crime. That's someone that like that was on a sailboat. I mean, it's still
like one of those mini yachts, like oh my God, like one of those. Yeah,
I think it's like a missing person.
Somebody got pushed over because they were fighting over something. Who knows? I like that. That'd be hilarious. Oh my God. So wait, before I let you go, what do you like to sip at night when you are relaxing? Is it even wine? Do you go harder? You like brandy? You like margaritas? And this is a twofold. Will you ever make a spirit?
Oh, you know what? I fantasize a lot about making like an aromatic kind of vermouth. So I think someday I might have to do that. Like one of the stories that I have in my head for that particular spirit is there's this pirate from the end of 1800s, a Chinese woman who was a pirate. She was actually a prostitute and she married an admiral and he died 3 years later. And she wanted to take over his armada, which was like, she grew to 50,000 ships or something like that. And she married the second in command so that she could do that, but she was the leader. And the Chinese government tried to negotiate with her to give up her fleet. And like, they couldn't really win. So they truced with her and she got to keep her wealth. And they got to keep her boats and she invested it all in casinos. So she's just like this amazing lady at the end of, perfect, like maybe, crime story. Maybe he died. I don't know.
Maybe he had help. Right.
But this story of this woman pirate in China, that's the story I want to put on my vermouth label someday.
I love that. I mean, you've just got this very interesting. I mean, you talk about me with my crimes and killers and wine, but you've got this great women's history and wine. That is definitely a fabulous niche and different. And the wine is good. That's even more like that's hot. But what do you like to drink at night when you are relaxing?
At night I do. I mean, I'll drink a glass of wine at night, or I'll drink some vermouth sometimes. Or some. I have this aperitif from Prague, from Czechoslovakia, or former Czechoslovakia. It's like I can't remember what it's called, but it's a very common aperitif there. It's this like really herbaceous, just kind of after dinner drink. And sometimes we break that out because we loved it in Prague, and it's like it has almost like a bitterness.
Okay.
But it's really nice. It's like, you know, kind of a digestif.
Right.
So I'll send it to you. You can
let me know. Like,
put it in the show notes.
When you say bitter, are you saying, is it more like an Amaro? Is it more like a Campari?
It's I guess a little bit like an Amaro, but that even is more wine-like than this. This is more of like a straight kind of herbal-y spirit.
Okay. Interesting.
And so I haven't done that recently, but in times past, I've definitely enjoyed it. It's called like Becherovska, I think. And it was really funny, actually, when I first bought it, I was bringing it back from Prague because I didn't know you could buy it so frequently in the United States. And so I was like, storing it in my suitcase. And I went through London Heathrow and they took it out of my suitcase and were like, what is this? And like, I didn't know. So I said rum. And they just like,
they're like, girl, no, this is not rum. They are like, no.
They just put it back. They were like, that makes sense. You know, there's a lot of rum that gets made in Eastern Europe. So.
Yeah, right. That's why I'm like, rum. Okay. They're like,
I think it's called Becherovska.
Okay.
But
that's
yeah,
interesting. You will have to definitely tell me because I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
I'll find it. Yeah.
Last but not least, since we are talking about crimes and killers, what are you binging? If there's anything with a crime or a killer, even better. But if it's happy-go-lucky, what do you watch? I love to know what people watch.
I've been doing a little bit of the Apple TV thing. I've been watching the morning show and Ted Lasso.
Everybody loves that. Everybody loves it.
It is funny. It is really funny. And then I've been loving the Tiffany Haddish, the special. I'm on the second or the first or second season now. I can't remember if I went in order, but her They Ready, the comedy special.
That is very good.
Yeah. I love her. We watch a lot of stand-up. You need some levity right now. You know, it's just like I have, once I get my kids in bed, I have maybe an hour at night and I just want to, I put on like the Daily Show or a little bit of comedy or some, I don't know. What are you watching? I don't watch a lot of crime TV because I have sleep issues. I can't sleep. I get too involved in it. I get really hyped up. Right. And then.
Well, I have to confess, every day I either watch a combo of Monk and Columbo. I love both of those shows and I'm still watching them, even though I've seen both, because I'm in the process of writing my own detective. And I realized that the thing about the two of them is that they were quirky and lovable, both of those characters. My character is an ex-porn star. It's not quirky, but that's a quirk. So, and I realized, like Jessica, I also watch Murder, She Wrote. I wouldn't call her quirky. I mean, so I'm just looking at how men get away with the quirk when it comes to detective, and most women.
Yeah, she was a little more buttoned up, you know, her British accent and all that.
No, I will say she had some suitors. The men kind of like Jessica, and I was like, look at old girl. So I'm trying to figure out why it worked with men, and I'm trying to figure out, because I have other characters too, and I'm like, I kind of want to write a quirky woman detective because we need one. Yeah. So I watch both of them, and of course I watch all the bad Lifetime, 60, 90-minute, somebody gets stabbed. Like, I think your rosé may end up being like the psycho yoga teacher review.
Ooh,
right? Yeah.
Like she has it in her bag and like she steals your husband or something. I don't know.
The teacher it's a horrible movie on Lifetime and I couldn't look away. And then, so I write these things on my Facebook and then people go and watch them. And I'm like, oh, that sounds great. I'm like, it is, because it's horrible. It's ridiculous. And he falls in love with her and he starts getting obsessed. So he's a psycho yoga teacher. So it's great. So
I love this. I want to put your reviews on the website because all these stories are all these like really interesting, you know, they have like a slight edge to them too. Often like the woman, Annette Kellerman, who was the first woman to write, the swimsuit lady. She was a vaudeville star and she was the first woman to appear nude in a film. It was a mermaid scene that she had choreographed herself.
Oh.
So they all have this little edge to them. So maybe, maybe we take those characters and say this is the crime they would have committed.
Oh
like,
my God, that would be
maybe she would have strangled one of the gendarmes that arrested her or something.
Girl, let me know. I will write that. I will be a guest blogger on the site if you have a blog. I'm ready. I love that. Well, it's so great to talk to you. Everybody, like if you want to order the wines, where do they go to find your wines?
So please go to Olivia Brion, BRION.com. We ship almost to every state in the country. If you're there, we can probably get the wine to you there. You can follow us on Instagram. I always offer, like I said, a special with the release. And so we'll post our releases on Instagram at Olivia Brion Wines, plural. And I'm not on Twitter. So.
Oh, what is that about?
I'm on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. Everything gets on Facebook too. Olivia Brion Wines on Facebook. So yeah, join us and hear the new tales of Olivia Brion.
Right. The new crime tales. Yeah, I mean, and I'll say this, y'all know I don't lie to you about wine. These are really good. I'm not saying it just because she's here. Y'all know I don't lie to y'all. I'm very truthful about what I like and what I don't like. This is great. And I know the other ones are going to be great. They're also, I'd say, a great gift. If you know a woman who just loves even supporting women winemakers and even the history, this is perfect. Great.
Yeah. I always send out, I've started to send out, those sheets with the full story on them. So if you are getting the wines, I do have a 3-pack on the website right now where I include a virtual tasting. So if you're just learning about Olivia Brion wines right now, if you order that maybe for yourself or maybe for a friend or teacher appreciation, maybe, or, there's lots of reasons in a hard year.
Your history teacher would be like, oh my God, this is amazing, like man or woman. Because I mean, and then she sends out these really beautiful sheets. The labels and the sheets are amazing. I will tell you, I get a lot of the wine notes. And normally they're just like pieces of paper I throw away, but her wine notes came so elegant with the design and everything. I was like, look at this packaging. So besides that, it's a beautiful gift. Just saying. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, girl, I can't wait till you're back in New York because we have another night. I'm sure there's many nights for us to get into trouble, and I'll have to
make a news story.
Oh yeah, because that night was so unexpectedly fabulous. But I'd love to hang out with you again. So yes. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm sorry, what was that?
Thank you again. Thank you so much. It's so good to see you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Take care. Stay safe. Get out there on that rooftop.
I will. So thank you, everybody. And as I always say, peace, love, and cheers.
Cheers.